gonna make that feedback sound. It's gonna be gross. Um, so, hello, everyone. I know some of you, which is exciting, and I don't know a lot of you, which is even more exciting. So welcome to Intro to Stats. I'm Dr. C. And so a little bit about me. I'm from Rhode Island. I live about 5 minutes away from my parents. A little too close for my comfort, but I've asked them multiple times if they want to trade houses with my in-laws, and they say no, which is really too bad. In-laws are great. I went to Clark in Worcester, Massachusetts for my bachelor's degree. I did apply to Stonehill, but chose to go to Clark instead. Well, actually, I chose to go to UVM instead because that's where my girlfriend was going. Great. And then I realized, like, ew, no, I want to be at Clark. So I transferred back to Clark. Um, and I'm the chess club advisor here on campus. But those are all boring stuff. So let's go through what actually matters about me. All right, top three music is Blink-182, Eminem, and then T Swift. Honorable mention to a band from Rhode Island called Zaz. Top shows if I want to binge watch something is Brooklyn Nine-Nine, Bob's Burgers, and Parks and Rec, with The West Wing holding a nice place in my heart. Top movies are Harry Potter, the first movie, 2 classic, best Christmas movie, and then 2 indie flicks called The Lobster and Her. The Lobster speaks to you. It's weird. And Everything Everywhere All at Once. Amazing movie. I love games that are cooperative. So there's a game called Spirit Island that my wife and I play a lot. And then Pandemic Like C Season 1 is wild because you only get to play it 12 times. It's like as you're playing, you're like destroying the game. So you can't play it again. Really fun. You're supposed to do it like once a month, but then we just play it 12 in like a week. And Code Names is a fun like, party game. Blueprints is why I didn't grade my exams on time in the spring. Skyrim and It Takes Two is the first cooperative game my wife and I played together, and it's really nice because it's about how a woman scientist like is so focused on her work and her research that her relationship with her husband falls apart, and they decide to need a divorce. And the child really sad, so the child cries and cries on these little dolls that the parents turn into the dolls, and they have to find their way back to their child, and they find out they're back in love by the end. But it's weird to be like, hey, honey, you want to play a game with me? It's about divorce. But that was really great. And my brother's a video game designer, and so I gave him a shout out. That I put his first game he's ever published as honorable mention. It is cool, but you know, family. Bruins, activism, coffee, and that's brunch. I can't really find a good picture of what brunch is, but brunch. Um, Coffee is important because I have coffee in my office. If you don't like coffee, I have tea. If you don't like coffee or tea, I have chocolate. I both have chocolate. If you don't like chocolate, I have regular candy, and I have coloring books. Uh, I want you to come and hang out in my office, and I want you to give me the tea. That's why office hours are tea and tea time. You come, I give you tea, you give me the tea, and I respond. I'm like, oh, he said what? She didn't. But unless it's a professor, and then I'm just like this. I won't give you any facial reaction, but in the inside of my head, I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe they said that. But they're my colleagues, so I'll just be like, that's interesting. But then when you graduate, I'll be like, let me tell you my thoughts on that, professor. But only when, you know, we're no longer at Hearthstone. Um, I like to golf and ski and play Pokemon Go and rock climb. Uh, those are the important stuff about me. And now you know me very well. So it's stats. How are we feeling about taking stats? How many of us feel kind of anxious about stats? Solid. Nice. Most of the class. Pretty much all of the class. That's great. You are not alone. So this is a very famous study that looked and basically went out to like a representative sample of the United States and measured people's anxiety when it came to math. And what you can see is about 5% of And I say it's because what we would say high anxiety regarding math, but more than that, 30% have at least moderate anxiety about math. Math causes us anxiety. And so we call this math anxiety. Pretty straightforward. And what's interesting is that when you look at the data, in like nationally, women have higher math anxiety than men. And that's really interesting. And indeed, scientists have thought it's very interesting. And so what they've done is they've gone to elementary school teachers and they asked elementary school teachers, pre-kindergarten teachers, how do you feel about math? And they show a similar distribution to the American population. And what we found, or what not we, scientists better than me have found, is that it actually starts in preschool. That your preschool teacher tends to have heavy math anxiety. Your preschool teacher tends to be female, and she has tended to choose teaching a kind of subject and child that doesn't need to know how to do math very much. And so how is her abilities or her like thoughts about math impacting these kids? Well, she goes and she tells the students, she's like, oh, well, girls are better at reading, so why don't we have the girls read for us? And boys are better at math. And that belief that the preschool teachers pass on to the kids leads them, well, first it's connected to their own math anxiety, right? The more anxious I am about math, the more I believe in this gender stereotype. And then that gender stereotype, the kids learn it, and that leads women to fear math more because they were taught as a child they're not good at math. And if we find kids who are taught by any kind of individual who doesn't have math anxiety, they are not scared of math and they perform just as well. Right? And if you can break that belief about my gender, it somehow predicts my ability at math, we can break that, then we show no differences in gender when it comes to math. Right? And so, but it's interesting because they've also gone and told students or asked students, right? So here in this study, they went to first and second graders, probably really cute, and they were just told two gender neutral stories. There's a student who's good at math, and there's a student who's good at reading. And all they were asked to do is draw the story, draw the students. And so what we're going to see here is boy students and girl students. And what we want to know is how they kind of confirm, right? So when we think about the student's gender, boys tended to, for a little bit, kind of confirm the stereotype, right? So they drew a boy who was doing the math, and they drew a girl who was doing the reading. Or they don't confirm. So maybe they drew a girl who is doing math or a boy who's doing reading. You can see that difference there. It's slight, but there's there. But look at the girl students. Right? They show a lot more disconfirming, and that's only when they made sure to teach the girls, like, hey, this is a myth. Girls are good, right? Like we can break this down. And so you can target it really young to get girls to realize, like, no, we don't need to confirm the stereotype, right? And then these kids end up doing just as well, right? The ones who don't confirm. So the more we can convince first and second graders that anyone can be good at math, the more they're going to not believe in that stereotype and then become good at math. Now, that's fair, but it doesn't take over the fact that right now we're experiencing math anxiety, right? Like, yeah, well, thanks a lot. Go back in time and fix, first grader me. That'd be really good. Fair enough. And so what I would like us to try to do, and this is part of the class, really built into how I'm thinking about the class, is to reinterpret our anxiety as just discomfort, right? Math is uncomfortable. I get that. But what research has shown in a variety of ways is that if I tell you to embrace being uncomfortable, first I say embrace learning, you actually do a lot better if I'm telling you to be uncomfortable. And we need to view this discomfort within us as a sign of growth in learning, right? Like it's going to be okay. I can get past a little piece of it, right? I'm not going to expect you to be amazing in math next day. I want you to demonstrate that you're learning something. And those who are told to seek out discomfort in a variety of ways show in these two studies, they were more likely to seek out things that made them uncomfortable. So they sought out more articles relating to COVID-19. Here they sought out more articles that opposed their views. But they've also done it with training comedians at Second City in Chicago. It's an improv center that has basically outputted every comedian you know has gone through Second City. And those students who are going to be like Tina Fey, if they were told while they're practicing their improv, like seek out discomfort versus improve your improv skills, they felt like they learned more when they were told to seek out discomfort rather than to focus on their improv skills. So I don't want you to focus on your math skills. That's not what this class is. This class is about seeking out your discomfort and engaging with it and being okay. And so how do we overcome this mind reader feeling that we feel like we need to have? Is focusing on our ability to grow and learn and ask questions, right? That this class is going to challenge us and it's going to challenge all of us. And we need to accept that at face value, that no one knows what is happening right now, right? Like, don't think you're the only one because you're not, right? And so ask me questions. Ask me questions in class, outside of class, send me emails. I want to communicate with you. I love emailing, right? I will be there. I'm addicted to my phone. It's a great way to get in contact with me. My office door, if I'm in, is usually open. You can walk right in, right? If you don't feel comfortable with that, email me. We can set up a time so we can schedule you walking right in. Right? That's fine too. But nothing is inherent in us. Nothing is something that you have or don't. Everything is just something that we have to work on. And that's what I want out of this class. I want you to focus on gaining skills, not gaining grades. As such, this class is going to be weird. This is when I pull up Canvas, sort of, to talk about grading, but even then Canvas isn't going to work well. Maybe I'll pull up the syllabus. If I can find it. Syllabus. Let's go right. So in the most simple way to put it, there are 6 quizzes throughout the semester. Right? Quizzes are going to be in class. You're not going to have all class to work on them. They're going to be in class quizzes. And in these quizzes, I'm going to have 5 different sheets of paper in front of them, right? One is going to be about one learning goal, right? Tell me what frequency is, right? Calculate the mean over here. Maybe this one is do something else. And you come up, you get a piece of paper, you do that question, and you bring it back to me. If you've shown me you know how to calculate an average, you have that skill. We're done. Great job. You did it, right? You have shown me that you have mastered that skill. And this class is just about showing me how many skills do you want to show mastery in. And so once this quiz is done, right, we move on, and then the second quiz comes, you can return back to quiz 1 and be like, oh, I got that one wrong. Let me try again. Right? You can retry your skills. So the first one's going to be pretty straightforward. In quiz 2, we're going to be a little bit more detailed. Now there's 10 piles in front of us that you can choose from. You don't get to repeat all the way to quiz 6, but you get to choose what I'm evaluating you on, right? You can choose which skills you feel comfortable with and you want to be graded on to show your mastery. And you have other skills that you can say, I'm not ready for that one yet. Let me try a different one. And so that is basically the setup of this class. This is called specs grading, and there are some skills that I think you need to know in order to lead this class. And so we call those core skills. I would like you to be able to interpret a bar chart. Which group has more, which group has less? I would like you to be able to identify a statistical test. So if you read something, there's two groups, what are they probably doing? There are these skills that I think are core to stats. There are other skills, additional skills, that are going to come up throughout the semester. Essentially understanding what a mean, a median, and a mode is, or understanding what a z-score is. Maybe over here, what is the central limit theorem? And we're going to learn all of these. But I want to know, I've kind of like broken them into groups. So this one's called using software, inferential, foundations, and descriptives. And again, this all relates to how you're graded, where how many of the core skills did you achieve? Out of 5, if you wanted A, you need to have shown me mastery in all 5. Right, so at some point, one of the quizzes will ask you to show mastery in a certain core skill. If you pass it, great, 1 out of 5 times. And then the additional skills is it kind of works your way down here. It will make sense more as we go through, especially after quiz 1. I think we'll get a better feeling for it. But what you're able to do in this is choose both what you're being tested on in some way, right? You can ignore a skill and be like, I don't ever want to learn that, so I'm just going to ignore that one. But also, you have a very clearly written down where you want to go, right? Like how much work do you want to put in and how much skills do you want to achieve to get the grade? Because all it's going to be is like, you pass it, like this is correct, or like you need some revision here, right? There's flexibility built in. If you like missed a negative sign or your math was just a little bit wrong, right? Like you still understood what you were doing. I'm not going to say, nope, you didn't pass it, right? There's that flexibility there in the grading. And if you want to go like above and beyond, you can do like projects, but you don't have to do the projects. If the syllabus outlines, there's a lot of ways also to boost your grade. Right? So these are the minimums. And I would say that if you want to just be like an average student and kind of just like do the expected amount, I would say that's a B, right? So let's assume you kind of do as much as you can, right? You're trying, sometimes you're gonna get things wrong. You're probably gonna fall in the end at a B. If you do a challenge labor, which is like a project, right? Bigger project, and you complete it to a sufficient extent, you move up 1 letter grade or 1 like step. Right? So you go from a B to a B plus, or from a C minus to a C. Right? Doing a project boosts you a quote. And you also can get a boost if you turn in everything on time, you complete the assignments, and you don't miss more than a few classes, right? I might increase that to like 3 classes, but if you do miss more, like, it's okay. I'm not gonna ding you on that, right? But if you are constantly missing class or not turning in a lot of your assignments, I think that needs to go down. Those numbers can just fix a little bit. Or not engaging in the material before you come to class, then I would drop your letter grade. So you go from a B to a C. Right? But that'd be really hard to do. I think you would have to really try to drop your letter grade to get to that point. And you can kind of watch yourself along the way. Canvas will kind of update you on how you're going so you can see, did I master that skill or not? I don't have to worry about that one anymore. Because what I don't want at the end of the semester, me testing you for the 100th time of what an average is. Like, if you know what it is, you know what it is. I don't need to test it more than once. So in doing so, since the goal of what I want you to gain is skills, then class time should be dedicated to helping you develop those skills. Right. And so that's why this class is using what's called a flipped classroom approach. And so what that means is most of like the lectures is done online. Right. You can watch the videos in your own time. It's also me learning how to use it, and most of them are terrible so far, but you know, there are videos you can watch online. Times Two Speaks. My voice is terrible on recording. And then in class, we're going to kind of apply what we talked about and try things out. We're going to work in partners or work on your own, check with your partner, right? Everything is just practice. The only thing that really impacts your grade are those 6 quizzes that you have over the course of the semester. There are assignments, so there's going to be a couple of problem sets and labs to work on that we're going to do in class, and then you turn them in. Those, again, are just practice, right? If you do them and you complete them on time, you can increase your grade. But missing a few isn't going to affect your grade, right? Like the projects, the labs is graded to did you complete it or not, right? I might give you some pointers of like, you tried, good job, this is the correct way to do it. But it's just, again, to help you practice, to prepare us for the quizzes throughout the semester. Yeah. When we get to the quizzes, I will also have information for you of like how long you should expect to work on this problem. So that way you know, like, okay, this one will be quick. I want to do this one first. Right? Or this one will take some time. I want to get the long one over with. So we're going to be as transparent as we possibly can be to help you get the skills and show me your mastery of those skills throughout the semester. Now, I will say that the person who should have been up here is not me, it's Dr. Rich. He had to leave. His wife's grant got canceled, and so she had to go find a new job, so he had to move with her. But so this is all his, like, this is his brainchild that I think is wonderful. I heard from students last semester, and the only students that I heard who had a good time in stats were the ones in his class. And they said, this is the right way to teach stats. I did not hear that from anyone else. That doesn't mean that other professors aren't good. It just means that I heard positive feedback about going and teaching stats this way to Stonehill students. And I said, well, that's the only data I have, so let's try it, right? So this is new to me too, but I think it works. Not for nothing, but Dr. Rich had only complained to me. He's like, the only thing I can't figure out is how to reduce the grades because he's like, everyone scores high, which isn't necessarily a problem. I was like, hey, maybe they're all really learning. He's like, yeah, could be, right? But it tends to increase the curve a little bit more than other classes would have for stats too, which I'm fine with. I have no problem. But so if you're worried about it, just, data suggests that the curve gets higher when we do it this way. So that's the grading system. So there looks like there's a lot of work, and there is, in the sense that when we come to class, right, we're going to be jumping right in on an activity. And if you have not watched the videos or you haven't like done something, you might be like, what is going on, right? And that might make you feel uncomfortable in class, right? Like that's the discomfort. I hope you don't feel, but you might feel in this class, right? That you're like, oh, I didn't pay attention. I have no idea what's going on right now. And that's okay too, right? Like your classmates can help you. We can work on stuff together, or you just take some more time working through that problem. But we're going to try to feel not like this is the worst thing ever, but instead like, all right, well, like I'm just trying to learn this skill, right? We're all trying to learn different skills. So I do imagine that it still is confusing. It's still confusing to me. So if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them now or like over email, right? If you're like, I still don't understand how I get my grade, we can talk about that, right? But the goal would be just you kind of look and say, how many assignments or how many skills do I think I can display or want to display over the course of the semester? And that should be able to tell you, what your goal is that you're shooting for in this class. Come. I don't know. Okay. All right. So let's check the sound. Always do this. Nope. All right, well, good to know that room sucks for audio. But I'm a social psychologist. I love cults. I love groups. I love cults. I love messing with people. And really, I'm the cult leader because I'm actually making the money, but you're here. You're going to have a lot more fun than I am. You're my cult followers. All right, so cult followers, as my glorious followers, I need you to raise your right hand. Thank you very much, cult followers. And please read out loud. Whoa, 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 hands still up. Great. I couldn't have said it better myself. That was beautiful. So yes, and students have replied to me in that way, and I love it. I'm like, yes, right. I just want to know that you're alive, and that if they're just like, I can't handle stats right now, like good. As long as like you're still kicking. That's just want to check in with you. So if you start missing class, yeah, I'll probably send you an email being like, hey, how's it going? How can I get you back into class? Like, what's going on? And I just ask that if that happens, that you reach out and we can talk about it, right? Make sure that everything is good. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8, 9, 10. Great. 10. All right. So we're going to randomly assign people to 2 groups. And I need a volunteer to help me do the random assignment. All right, here you go. You get the special die. All right. So group A is going to roll the die, their die, 5 times each. 10 bucks. Group leader for, wait, no, one of you, I don't know who, needs to come up to the board and write down the 5 rolls for each person. Right, so you roll it. So now what did you get? Great. Next person. Right. Try to do it as easy, but make sure it's accurate. Group B will pick a number, 1 through 6. You're not going to roll a die. You don't get the die. Right, so someone needs to come up and write down Group B's numbers, 1 through 6. I'm going to leave the room. And you roll that die in front of you. If the number you roll, let's roll it now. We'll do a test run. 6. So the right side of the room for me, be this group. You are Group A. So you all need to come up, grab a die, and begin. Right, and then you're Group B. Right, and then discuss with yourself who's on which side, because I realized that could be like, oh, it's just pick a side of the wall. Everyone understands what's going to happen. I need a group leader for this half of the room. Do you want to be the group leader for this half of the room? Great. So whatever group you get, you're in charge of writing on the board. Wherever each side you choose to write on, don't tell me. Don't even look at the board. Okay. I mean, a group member for this side of the room. Okay, so you're in charge of writing on some side of the board. I don't know which side of the board, for whatever group you get. Okay. Any questions? What's gonna happen? I'm gonna put the die for group A. Let's try it again. See if we know what's going on again. 5. So what does that mean for 5?
One of my people, my side of the board. I'm a little lost.
I know, yeah, that's okay, great, same. Okay, so you have like this special die.
Okay.
I should have had, I did, have fun say. You need to tell us which group is which, you're doing the random sign for.
Okay.
So you rolled a 5, and so if you rolled a 5, the right side of the room, that's you 10, get the die. And you're in charge of rolling 5 times and writing it down. So roll 1 time. 6, so again, right side of the room, they get the die, you come up, you grab a die. You're gonna roll and write, but you need to tell like, oh, for the 5, right? Kind of go down the line. Because I was a 6, you all don't get the die. You come up to the room and you go one by one. Everyone says a number and you write it down. 1 through 6. If you pick 0, it's gonna be really obvious which group is which. I'm gonna leave. I'm gonna come back in and I'll tell you which group rolls the die, which group gets the number. Good? You understand?
Yeah.
So you're doing both. You're both rolling the die for random assignment, and then you're also gonna be a writer. Your turn.
Oh.
Got it. And then someone's gonna get me all done. Have 50 numbers on the board. Both go green. No, both go red. Again.
Six. I'm getting 6.
Oh, you don't get the die?
Yes, so now you guys get. You roll it 5 times. I go around the room.
Yeah.
This, so you.
Oh, so now y'all pick side. Again, one side. He doesn't know.
Yeah, on that side.
Alright.
Yeah.
No, we don't. We just call out random numbers.
Can I do it 5 times random numbers?
I don't know.
Down.
We go in like an order, so it's what you said.
Yeah, do we want to the numbers next to the round?
5.
We got it.
We're on that
I
side.
mean, do you wanna roll it for me too?
We're on that side. We're just taking random numbers. 1 through 6.
1, 2, right next to it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So there's a lot to do.
I thought it was like rolls the dice each time.
That's what I thought.
Yeah. Otherwise, I don't think so. I know the point is, you guys go around and randomly say.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Random.
Yeah, what'd you say?
You're gonna start with 1 right there? Or you doing it random?
Thank you. I was kind of copying how she was writing them. Like, I don't know if it's supposed to be next to the one.
That's what I was wondering. I
Right.
didn't know.
Is it next? I think it's supposed to be. Is it supposed to be next to the number?
Yeah.
Okay.
Like for each side.
Yeah.
Hang on a second. Okay, yeah, wait, so did she say the first one?
4.
1, 3, 1, 6.
3.
4.
Another 3, 2,
2.
6, 1, 2, 3. 2.
Then do you wanna do the top one?
It's hard.
Alright.
We go all the way to the, we go all the way to the 5. Yeah, so yeah.
Oh.
Keep going. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's go in order for shawarma.
4, 6.
2.
4.
Right. What'd you say?
6, 1.
We're gonna-
Wait, you
Oh,
were,
Again.
1,
6.
3, 4, 3, 5, 4. That's you. 4. 4. I roll for you too.
Yeah.
6, 2, 5,
1.
3, 4,
3.
3, Two. Six. One.
Break again.
Two.
One.
Six.
Five.
Four.
Four.
Six.
Four.
What'd you say?
Was the six there, or was that?
I'm so confused. Four. But like, how does it? Yeah. Five. One.
One.
Two.
What's your?
One. One.
Three.
One. Two. Six. Three. Two. Five. Three. Five.
Two.
Okay. Right. Paper.
All right.
So three.
Oh, yeah. It's cool.
Five. Six. Six.
I'm not kidding. Carl, this is.
Do another one.
The problem that, I'm hoping I gained from that Dr. Rich had. This one, he actually left no notes. I know what he was going for, but. This side rolled back. No. Oh, really? So. Tricky. You're good. All right, well, I tried because I don't have Dr. Rich's magic. Or you're one step ahead, you're thinking the mind games. But this works well because, I mean, part of it is the idea that we're really bad at understanding randomness. Right? And the idea, should have worked, not as good as Dr. Rich, is that the group that was told to be random, right? Pick a number, no dice. You're trying to be random, and you're not good. Like, if you just pick a random number, people are really bad at just picking a random number. What tends to happen is we ask people to pick a random number from 1 to 10. It's not random, right? Most people are going to choose 7. And the middle number, 50% of people will choose like up to 6, right? So like you start at 1, and how many people? Like there's 100 people. The 50th person in line is going to choose 6, but most people will pick 7 as their random number. And so I was looking for. This is why I thought this would be the die roll, is because I thought people would be really uncomfortable putting the same number 3 in a row. So if you were trying to game me into doing that, good guess. So I saw that and I was like, no one would feel comfortable saying it's random to put 3 3s in a row. That must be the dice speaking. But incorrect. So foiled. I'm gonna text Dr. Rich, be like, hey, you owe me some magic. Because the next one's even harder. I'm really worried down the line. I do not think I'm going to be able to pull off his magic. I'm very scared about it. But why?
Besides breakfast food.
Because people are idiots, right? And the part of psychology that we study is trying to understand the idiots of the world, right? And trying to understand this uncertainty. It's not clear, right? People do not always choose the best options in front of them. Sometimes they make the wrong decision. And when you tell them that's the wrong decision, they'll go, okay, and they're going to go and do it anyway, right? And that's what makes psychology so difficult to study. Really? Is that we're trying to predict people's behavior, but people are illogical. They don't have very predictive behavior a lot of the time. And so if we try to predict, it can be hard. But that is what statistics really is trying to say, okay, given what we know, what is the most likely outcome? So for example, we have these two images here. On the top left, we have median income, so the average income in a given section of the United States, where darker red is more income. No, darker red is less income, sorry. Darker red, less income, lighter or yellow, more income. And here on the right is obesity rates, where lighter shades is less obese and darker shades of red is more obese. So what's going on? What do you see as like, is there a relationship here? Income and obesity seems to relate, and you noted that the less income you have, the more obese you tend to be. Yes. Low income. Medium. Yeah, I guess I shouldn't have pointed out Texas. Texas is kind of weird. But here, right, like Georgia, Louisiana, Alabama. These kind of places have low income, but also high obesity rates. But so does that mean if we want to solve obesity, we just give everybody a ton of money? Why not? We just said that low income, more obesity. So high income, no obesity. Give everyone a ton of money. Solved it. What else is happening? What's in that relationship? Okay. Perfect, right? So maybe like there's probably a relationship between income and education levels, and that might be related to nutrition knowledge, right? And that's going to lead to lower rates of obesity, right? Great. What else might be occurring? What do you think?
Like your access to food and health, maybe if you live really far away from a store, you might be more likely to buy like less cheap.
Great, right? Like access to stores, right? Both in terms of if it's further away, I have to pay more gas to get to that spot, right? And stores, are you going to have a huge Walmart in the middle of nowhere? Are you going to have it in a big city where there's more customers, right? Like stores are going to gravitate towards where people are, and they're not going to want to go to low income areas because, well, no one has the money to buy anything. So food is going to be in high income areas. And if there is food in low income areas, what kind of food can we afford on the cheap? Fast food, right? We can afford fast food, but fast food is unhealthy, right? And so as we lose our income, we actually lose the ability to buy good, healthy food. And so it's not that income is causing obesity, but maybe it's access to healthy options is related to obesity. And so this is a problem of statistics. Problem that, one, we can't just draw an immediate conclusion. We have to think about many things. And statistics can help us try to grasp some of those things, but we're not going to have all the information ever, right? And that's the big problem. We're going to try to understand a relationship without knowing the whole picture. And so when we're thinking about stats, we can think of them in terms of descriptive statistics. So just you have some data, tell me about it.
Oh, describe that.
Right, as we call that descriptive statistics, we're just trying to describe what's in front of us. How many students at Stonehill are first gen? How many students are from Massachusetts, right? You have all this data that we want to know about. But we also can use statistics to infer something about the larger population, right? So eating chocolate has an effect on happiness. Or that would be more inferential, while the jobs reports that happens every month or so is just describing the state of the United States. This amount of people have jobs. This amount of people don't have jobs. And it's descriptive. We're just telling you the state of the world. And that's really important. Like the money that I still don't really understand how it changes and stuff, like depends on how we're describing the state of the American job numbers. Right? So it's not that descriptive statistics aren't useful, they're extremely useful. They just do different things. So we're going to think about this class a lot in terms of this thing. Right? And this is a frequency distribution. And all this means is that we can imagine there are people here along this line. And this is actually, you can say it's how many miles do you drive on your car in a year? Right? We're actually going to try this out in a little bit. So think to yourself, how many miles do I drive in my car if you don't have a car? A family member, someone, how many miles do you think they drive in a given year? And so maybe some people don't drive at all, or they drive very little mileage. And there are some people that drive a lot, but most people probably fall somewhere here. Right, and so when we look at graphs, this the one over here, the y-axis, is kind of telling us what we're looking at as far as like, what is this number? And the x-axis is describing, well, what is it that we're looking at? So miles. Sometimes they might look something like this, where most people on this side of the graph, but there are a few people out here. Anyone have like an example of what would be some thing in the world that most people maybe don't have a lot of, but there's some people have a lot of it? Just like, how do you have that money? Money, right? Like most people make, this amount of money, but then you have people like Elon Musk or Oprah. God, oh no. Dangerous. Fun. That are really out in the tail, right? So we call this positively skewed because it's the tail is coming to a positive number, going bigger and bigger and bigger. Right? Elon, Oprah, Bill Gates, they're all out there. Some distributions might look like this, where it looks like that first one, nice curve, but there are two curves. This one's always like the harder to think about, but you can imagine there's probably something, the average height of individuals who identify as male, and the average height of people who identify as female. Right? There's going to be a difference in that grouping. Right? Men tend to be a little taller, but within each gender, there's a basic curve. Right? Most people are the same height, and then people really tall, people really short. So that'd be this, where it's bimodal. So there's two peaks here. So this is bimodal, and you have something like this too. And if we roll the die, which was that side, no, yes, that side, the same number should have, like, 1 should have showed up 1 out of 6 times. 2 would have showed up 1 out of 6 times, right? Like the chance to show up would be the same for all of the numbers. And so if we're looking at these different kinds of numbers, or these shapes, they tell us a lot about the data underneath. If that's here, you look at something and say like, okay, well, it doesn't matter where it is, you have just as much people being out here than you do out here. This is gonna be a whole semester thing. I'm gonna die by that chord. So let's talk about miles driven in a year. I asked you, how many miles did you drive in the past year? I'm gonna ask all of you that question. What do you think our data might look like? So would it look something like this, where some people say a little, some people say a lot? Would it look like this, where everyone drives an equal chance to drive the same amount? Would it look like this? There's a big hump here, a big hump here. Most people drive a little bit, some people drive a lot. Some people drive a little, most people drive a lot. What do you think?
I feel like there'd be like a ton of variety because like not like college students like sometimes have cars, but sometimes they don't. Like
Mhm.
some are commuters and some are residents.
Perfect.
So I'm not sure if there would be like a specific um, emphasis on.
Okay, I think a lot of variety though, right? So we're thinking like there's a lot of variety. We might look to something more like this, because there are those some people that don't have cars, right? And they're over here. And there's some people who are commuters, and they're gonna be driving more than this, right? Well, there's some average student who drives to the liquor store once a week, right? Well, they're kind of our middle ground. Okay, so you're thinking something more like that. Anyone have agreement, disagreement, other ways? All right, well, let's see. I'm gonna ask you two questions. First one isn't actually how many miles you drive, but the mileage itself on your car. So how many miles has your car or your family's car been driven since it was bought? All right, you're gonna try to remember and take a guess at what that was. Let me pull that up here. All right. Start Savannah. We're gonna try to go up and down. Mileage on your car. What are you feeling? Okay. $120. $160 or 6? $150? Oh wait, you first, sorry. 42. And then 80 and 62. Oh, loading. Okay. Wait, this way? No. There we go. All right. So this is our distribution of miles in our car. Right, so we got some people that said down here at 50,000, some people out here at almost 200,000. And indeed, I mean, as you noted, right, you felt like there'd be a big spread. And it looks like there is a big spread. Right, where we have, maybe you'd say this might look bimodal, because we have these two that are pretty high peaks in the background. You see them? And it kind of comes like up and then down and then up and then down. So that looks relatively nice. We don't have a lot of people, so it's hard to get a good grasp, but we can see that this is maybe a shape that it might look. Yeah. And so if we looked at our digits, all of us said 180, right? But more than that, you just said like 1,000, right? You never told me 182,725, right? Most, all of us ended with a zero, right? The last digit in the number you reported to me was a zero, right? No one did. Great. And you can imagine that this is some data set where when they ask people how many miles are in your car right now, a large majority of them, 25% of them, gave a number that ended with a zero. Yeah. And then a smattering gave other digits. Maybe they actually walked to their car. But most people are lazy, they're just going to tell you the average, right, about this. You definitely wouldn't expect this, right? Like if someone showed you this data and said, oh, you were equally as likely to tell me your digit ended with a zero as a 7 as an 8, you're like, really? That seems odd. Yeah, because are we really more, I mean, 0 out of 25 of you said anything other than a 0. We'd be shocked if this is what the data looked like. Our data doesn't look like this, right? There's no bars here. There's only a bar up. And when we ask people how many miles do they drive, it looks something like this. Like this is the UK, so it's not ours, and they kind of broke it down by years of car. But mileage on the car, looking, there's a big peak, and then it kind of drops off, right? Some cars are really good and last a long time. Some cars are smaller. And so researchers reported this is what their data looked like, though. When people were asked, how many miles do you drive in a given year? 500 people said, I drove no miles this year. 500 people said, I drove 10,000 miles this year. 500 people said, I drove 20,000 miles this year. 500 people said, I drove 50,000 miles a year. And then no person reported driving more than 50,000 miles. Does that make sense? Does everyone drive like an equal chance to drive 0 miles than 50,000 miles? You're just as likely to be somebody who drove 50,000 miles as you are to be someone who drove 0 miles. Remember back here, we were talking about what we might expect mileage over the year to look like. And we said, well, here at Stonehill, right, it probably looks something like this. Some people don't drive a lot. Some people, like my best friend Michelle, drive a ton. Most of us drive this. And we said it'd probably be really weird if you were just as likely to drive a lot than you were to drive a little. I mean, that'd be something that looks like this. There's no difference in how much, there's no difference in like pulling him out of the hat. Like, oh, wow, you drove 50,000 miles. Like, no. We could probably take a guess that the average Stonehill student doesn't use their car that much. If they have. Maybe they're driving home every other weekend. They're not going crazy. But this data said you wouldn't be able to take a guess. They could just be as likely to not use their car as they would to use it all of the time. And so these researchers said, oh, in our data, you're just as likely to never drive your car than you are to drive your car a lot. And that doesn't really make sense. Like, that seems weird. And why is it no one drove more than 50,000 miles? It just stops. And so it's okay because they had a lot of people, and they actually had people who had 2 cars, 3 cars, 4 cars. Now, if you have 4 cars, how do you think like, you're driving them? Or even 2 cars? Yeah, 4 cars. Let's go with 4 cars. I can't even imagine what having 4 cars is like, but say you have 4 cars. Are you driving them equally? What are you probably doing with those 4 cars? Someone who has 4 cars, what are they probably doing with their cars? Someone.
One car's probably gonna be like take out for special occasions. One just to show. And the others.
Great, right? Yeah, you probably have like your primary mode vehicle Maybe you got the convertible that you take out during like the summertime when it's nice and not rainy, and you got like the show vehicle, and maybe I don't know, you got the one that like the rich man's like working on for fun, right? He's like, oh, it's my project car, right? Like so, but yeah, you probably have a primary vehicle, right? And so there's probably one out of that set of four that you drive more often than others. Does everyone kind of agree with that? Most likely you're gonna have one car out of your four cars that you drive more often. Yeah, even you can imagine maybe there's two cars for your both parents have a car, but one parent maybe drives a little bit more than the other. Yeah. One does groceries, one works a little further away, things like that. Well, in their data, this is their first car, this is their second car, this is their third car, this is their fourth car. Kind of looks like no matter how many cars you have, you drive it the same amount. So you don't have a favorite, they're all your favorite. You drive them all equally as much. Does that make sense? We just said it didn't, right? We just said no. You have one car that you only take out on special occasions. But in their data, no, you don't. They're all your favorite car. And what this is researchers who got this data set just graphed histograms. Yeah. I know. It's 12:45. On what thing? On like My Hill?
Yeah.
Seriously? That can't be right. I mean, I believe you that on My Hill is that, but it has to be 12:45. Did you somehow, do you have like the double booking?
Mine just says like 12:15, but I can.
No, I believe all of you. I'm gonna text and Friday too. And I won't text her. I'll email her. Okay. I finish this blow-away point, and then we're good. We'll end it. Yeah. So they just graphed frequencies, these histograms, and we're like, obviously this is faked, right? And they showed that this data is all fake. It's all made up. Nothing is real. And they did it just by graphing frequencies, right? Like histograms. And that's really cool, right? Like histograms like this can tell us a lot about the data. And here it tells us that supposedly people with four cars drive their cars just as much as people who only have one car, or they drive the cars equally, right? Like it doesn't make sense. And so something as simple as a histogram and just counting how many times does this number occur can tell us a lot about data, people, and if it's faked. So thanks. We'll come back on Friday to start practicing frequencies and histograms and all that stuff. And I'll check with the registrar, see what's going on there. Appreciate it.
Like I think the site obviously happened, 45 minutes. I think that was right. And then the first class, it went till like, I've been